Bam. Okay. There we go. You sound one with all the voice lines. Oh, so is it not the first one? It's the second one, isn't it? Oof. Okay. How could you do this to me? Holy cow, it's 11 minutes long. Jeez, that's a lot of voice lines.
And you have met a terrible,
Whoa.
terrible demise. But, I don't feel too bad about it. After all,
What?
if it weren't from me, it would have just been from someone else, you know?
What?
I guess what I'm trying to say is life goes on. For everyone else, life goes on, not for you.
Uh,
You're,
oh.
you're dead. But
Uh,
that's neither here nor there. It reminds me of one summer day in the park. I was having just a delightful picnic with my good friend Orville. And I said to him, Orville, I have a story. And he said to me, what's the significance of the
oh my
story? And
gosh, he's just looking off into the
I
distance.
said to him, Orville, not every story has to have significance, you know?
What? Yes.
Sometimes,
Does it not?
sometimes a story is just a story. If you try to read into every little thing and find meaning in everything anyone says, you'll just drive yourself crazy. I had a
I
friend
feel
who
like
it
he's talking
once
to Matt Pat
wasn't pretty. We talked about it
or
for years.
Markiplier.
And not only that, but you'll likely end up believing something you shouldn't believe and thinking something you shouldn't think or assuming something you shouldn't assume, you know?
Oh my goodness.
Sometimes, I said, a story is just a story. So just be quiet for 1 second of your life and eat your sandwich, okay? Of course, it was only then I realized I made sandwiches, and poor Orville was having such difficulty eating it. Elephants have those clumsy hands, you know? Actually, I suppose that's the problem. They don't have hands at all, do they? They're, they're all feet. And I couldn't imagine someone asking me to eat a sandwich with my feet. Now, if I recall correctly, there was a bakery nearby. I said to him, Orville, let me go get you some rye bread. Now, I'm unsure if elephants enjoy
oh,
rye bread, but
oh my
I
gosh.
assure you that Orville does. Now, this was on a Tuesday, which was good because rye bread was always fresh on Tuesday. They made sourdough bread on Monday and threw it out Wednesday, or rather, they sold it at a discount for people wanting to feed the ducks, and then probably at the end of the day, finally, they threw it all out. I don't recall.
What?
I do remember a man who would bring his son to the bakery every Wednesday and then go feed the ducks. He would buy all of the sourdough bread. Of course, you're not supposed to feed the ducks sourdough bread at all. It swells up in their stomach and then they all die. At least that's what I've heard.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting fact, actually. You don't feed ducks that. Same with anything like Alka-Seltzer. You don't want to eat any of that. Like, or even Mentos for the fact for ducks. Like, their stomach acid, it's just very reactive, and it will, I think that goes for all birds because they can't really chew their food. They have to, like, swallow it whole. So, like, inside of them, it's, like, very, very dangerous, you know? So everything just kind of dies on entry, like fish. You don't think about that until you do. So that's a pretty good point because like if you do anything that's bubbly, even soda, they'll explode. I mean, I remember this one story my friend was telling me about birds like the Navy. They would like sometimes they would throw their like garbage off and and then the birds would eat it and then like it would depend on what it was. They would eat it and then bam, they blew up like midair. It was crazy. I think they have videos on that, but they're pretty brutal. I wouldn't recommend watching them unless you like seeing birds explode. But that reminds me of the time where whales also are very explosive. Okay? Whales are very, very explosive when they die. Same with like anything that goes on with like bigger orcas or stuff. If they're beached and they're dead, you don't want to go near them. They blow up. It's crazy. He has a very valid point. Animals love to explode. Same with elephants. Like any big animal that's bigger than you and you go near it and you poke on it, like poke it with the stick, they boom, blow up everywhere. Guts go everywhere. It's very, very dangerous. And yeah, it's very crazy. He has a very good point. Like this guy knows. Very interesting.
I never saw any ducks die myself, but I did notice a substantial decrease in the duck population over the course of a few years. I just never thought to stop the man and tell him that he was killing the ducks by feeding them sourdough bread. And if you want my opinion on the matter, and I told Orville this as well, if you want to feed ducks, or birds, or any kind for that matter, it's best to buy seed. I mean, when you think about it, breads of any sort don't occur in nature. They don't grow on trees or spring up from the bushes. I don't think birds know what to do with bread. What was I saying? Oh, yes, yes. So I bought Orville some rye bread. What a fine day it
Wow.
was.
Yeah. Okay. Hold on one second, Mr. Hippo. Yeah. Yeah. See, you feed them seeds. You want to feed birds seeds. Like, they eat seeds. I mean, and meat. You know. They don't eat, like, you know, plants. Birds are carnivores. I mean, maybe omnivores. I mean, are seeds really... Seeds are plant-based, I think. They got proteins in them, though. I don't know. Like walnuts and, like, peanuts. Peanuts. Like, peanut butter. Peanut butter apparently has a lot of protein, too. So, like, that's like seed meat. That's like plant meat. That's crazy to think about. Because protein... You get protein from, like, your big meats. Like chicken and stuff. Like birds. It's a cycle. Whoa. Sorry. Let's
It
go.
seems that you have met your end. What a pity. I don't feel too bad about it, though. After all, if it weren't me, it would have just been one of the others, I guess. I'm honestly just glad to be out of those air ducts. It's not easy for a hippopotamus to fit up there, and not easy to get down either, and not as young as I used to be, as you can see. I used to be able to do all the sorts of things. You're young, you're vibrant, you have that sort of pep in your step. It reminds me of a conversation I was having with one of my good friends, Orville.
Wow.
We were having a nice picnic one day. I believe it was summer. No, perhaps it was... Was it the fall? Yes. It was the fall because the leaves had turned already. But I said to Orville, I says, Orville, I have a story to tell you. And Orville looked at me, kind of odd and said, well, what's it about? I said to him, not every story has to be about something, Orville. Sometimes a person just wants to talk. Why does everything have to be a story? I said to him.
Ah.
He just looked at me and he said, well, you
Headpad.
said you had a story. And, he was quite right. I did, in fact. I told him I had a story. I suppose if a person just wants to talk, then it's best to not announce that you're telling a story. Telling a story does come with its own pressures and expectations.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose.
Really does.
After all, if you're just talking to a friend, then there's no more expectations than if you were talking into the wind.
So I've got my essay written, and I've been
Oh no!
working on it for
An
about a
ad!
week.
I can't
So
believe
now I'm gonna
this.
show you how I use Grammarly.
Up there.
Words themselves aren't expected to carry, aren't expected to stick. But if you announce you're telling a story, well then, there'd better be a point to it all, No one wants to sit and listen to someone ramble on and on and on with absolutely no end in sight. So, it's good to be mindful that when you tell someone that you're about to tell a story, that you have something to say. Telling someone that you're going to tell them a story is tantamount to asking them to stop what they're doing and pay attention. You're basically saying, hey, buddy, stop everything. Stop what you're thinking. I have a solution to everything. And, well, I didn't really have any story to tell. In hindsight, I probably just misspoke when I said that I had a story. I think it would have just been better to tell Orville that I wanted to tell him something rather than tell him that I had a story. But even then, it might have put too much importance on the whole thing. Either way, it was quite a nice day. I remember that we were drinking tea.
I love tea!
Well...
Oh, this guy's my favorite. He's one of my favorite. He's shot up. As soon as he said tea, bro, he shot up. all the way up to the top. You know, move over, everybody. He drinks tea. Oh, wow. I was going to talk about the other thing that he was talking about storytelling, because I was like, I like to tell stories. You know, I am a very awesome storyteller because I tell lots of stories all the time. And you know, the good thing about telling stories and like what you do in your life is getting stories and sharing them with other people that like are around you and that talk to you all the time. So it's a really good thing to just talk about stories. You know, he was having a really good point, you know, because like a lot of stories you would tell, like people like that listen, you know, that's how you know like your friends truly care, because they listen to what you have to say, even though it may not be important, but it's important to you. And if the people around you care about what's important to you, then it's like, then that's how you know that you have really good friends, you know? And like the point of his like story about telling stories is like, you know, yeah, he had a good point about like, hey, stop what you're thinking, listen to me. I may have a solution. I've been to this place before. I may have seen something like this. It's a good way to just like, you know, um, like communicate ideas and then like experiences. It's nice, all right? Like people are very similar, more similar than you know, and like together I believe that we could all come up with the solution of like working together. You know, that's why we're knights of the Thorn Core, because like, you know, we are a team, we're one army and we work together and we help each other out. And it's really nice, you know, when you think about it. And like through our stories, we'll tell more stories and create new stories in the future, and like it'll all be like back to like maybe this day or the day before or in a future date, and it's gonna be something truly special. And then, you know, that's how we know we've done it. It was like when we have so many stories to tell that the world will just be one big story. I mean, it already is kind of a big story if you think about it already, because the world itself is a story. And, you know, everybody has their own story to tell. It's like we're all like books on the inside, you know? And that's a good way to look at it. Ah, that's cool. Alright.
It seems that your journey has ended. Very sorry about that. It was always going to end this way, of course. If it weren't by me, it would have just been by some other, terrible thing. Just, you could not imagine how terrible it would be. Just, I get scared thinking about it. Glad it's not me. It reminds me of a time I was speaking to my good friend Orville. We were sitting on a park bench watching the pigeons. I was on the left, he was on the... Oh, wait, was I on the right or left? Anyways, it doesn't matter. We were sitting on there watching the pigeons. And I said to Orville, friend, those birds are frozen. And he kind of looked at me like I lost my mind. But I reminded
I
him
did take
that
a sip.
it was winter, and often birds will sit in a tree until they freeze.
Oh
And
yeah.
then they sort of fall to the ground until the sun warms up and they can, move around again. So
That's a good
I
point.
said to Orville, you'd might
Thank you,
as well
Tekken.
save those breadcrumbs until the birds thaw, because they can't very well enjoy them in the condition they're in. To which he asked what I meant, and asking what condition the crumbs should be in before he threw them to the birds, assuming that I meant the birds couldn't enjoy the breadcrumbs in the condition that the crumbs were in, when in fact I had meant the birds could not enjoy them in the condition that the birds were in, considering that the birds were frozen. So he took a moment and then threw his last handful onto the ground. I said to him, Orville, why did you throw the breadcrumbs to the birds when I just told you they're frozen? To which he responded, the breadcrumbs are not frozen. Again, misunderstanding my words. I didn't mean to say that the breadcrumbs were frozen when I said I told you they're frozen. I've been referring to the birds. In hindsight, what I should have said was, and this would make perfect sense, why did you throw the breadcrumbs to the birds when the birds are frozen? He misunderstood upon my correction, stating that he didn't know what else to do with the breadcrumbs, and that perhaps, when the birds thawed, they'd still be able to eat the crumbs. So I said to Orville, and this is what I said to him, I said, Orville, the birds may be dead.
Boom. No, 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 no. Animals survive being. He didn't correct me, therefore This is now an ASMR stream. I was just trying not to interrupt Mr. Hippo. It was a whole thing like a couple of minutes ago, but no. Anyways, welcome, Circuit. I will drop kick you as soon as I get the chance, but welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope the video's a bit. I could turn it up a bit, but bam. Um, he has a good point. And no, animals do survive being frozen, especially reptiles, amphibians. I'm not too sure about birds, but I'm pretty sure birds could get survive being frozen too. A lot of animals, every bug survives being frozen. That's how they come back every year. But like if you think about it, like there's crocodiles that get frozen under lakes like all the time. Same with fish. Fish survive being frozen all the time. They just slow their heart rates down and they have fat on them that they burn off throughout like the winter because they don't need to use energy when they're frozen, so they just are preserved alive. And like that's a lot of animals that do that. Like crocodiles, they get frozen underneath lakes and then they'll have their like noses above the ice so they can still breathe. There's videos on that and it's really cool how a lot of animals can survive being frozen. They do not die, they survive. They always come back. No matter how hard you try, always come back. And yeah, so that's a pretty good point that he has. So, bada bing, bada boom, let's go!
It seems that you have met a horrible demise, my friend. But, these things happen in life.
I
Life
bet I
goes
could
on.
survive being frozen.
Not for you, obviously. You're dead. But it reminds me of a time I was having a conversation with my friend Orville. We were where were we? I think we were by the river. We were sitting by the river and watching the fish leap over the falls. And I said to Orville, sometimes I feel like a fish leaping over and over again, always trying to get somewhere, though I don't know where, only to find myself in the jaws of a beast. He, of course, looked at me, surprised. Have you been in the jaws of a beast, friend? To which I said, no, of course not, Orville. I said, no, 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 no. I simply meant that life can seem like a relentless endeavor to overcome meaningless obstacles, only to meet an equally meaningless fate, regardless of your efforts, regardless of the obstacles you've passed. And Orville, he stood and proceeded to drape me with a picnic cloth, to which I asked him, I said, friend, what are you doing? He looked at me very concerned, really. I feel like you've gotten too much sun. Indeed, indeed I had. He proceeded to pour me a glass of just ice-cold lemonade.
Ice
Ooh,
cold.
you ever mix it with iced tea? You do like a
Ah,
little half lemonade.
now you're not my
Ooh,
favorite.
it's
Iced
so,
tea
you
is
should try
bad.
it some. Well, you can't because you're dead. But
I don't like
anyway,
iced tea.
so you may be
It's not
asking
hot tea.
yourself,
It's not
how
for
did
me.
I go
I
from
like
sitting
everything
by the
hot.
falls and drinking lemonade to being wedged in the air duct? Not only with Orville, but with an entire assortment of
Lemonade's good though.
fruity-colored friends. Well,
Iced tea, no,
there's
that's a
there's really
crime.
no good answer to that, but
That's heresy.
perhaps I met a demise of my own at some point, and this is my afterlife or my dream, whatever it might mean. I honestly don't know. Or maybe it doesn't mean anything at all. Maybe it doesn't mean anything at all.
Ah! Why did you have to do that? Okay.